The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video.
Come on, boys, get loud. 'Cause when the music starts bumping, the whole place will be jumping. It's my scene, you know what
It's Harriana and I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how are you guys doing? My name is Harriana and welcome to or welcome back to the pirate ship, also known as Harry Hook's pirate ship. I am the captain. You are not my first mate. I don't got no first mate because you want to know why. Bring your ear closer to the speaker so you can hear me clearly. Nobody's worthy of being the first mate, but hi, hello, how are you guys doing? My name is Harriana and I like to make content based off nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces. Now today is strictly nostalgia because this is one of the things I had no business watching when I was growing up. But I had the honor of presenting this panel at this year's momocon 2023, and it was titled Revisiting the Boondocks. And basically this entire panel was just us looking back on the show and how we feel about it now, and how some things aged well and how some things aged poorly. And my lovely friend Jayla, she is wife pudding on Instagram if any of you guys want to follow her. She recorded it for me on my camera, but the reason why I am doing it like this, because you have voiceover Harry today. I'm sorry, I just was not feeling well enough to get on camera. It was just going to take me way longer to do this on camera, but I do want to pause like during this panel and talk a little bit more about certain things that I said and like why I said them, because I feel like it would like do this a little bit more justice, because it's one thing for the audience to sit there and experience this live, but it's another for the audience here on YouTube to sit and watch it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the panel rolling. Yeah, that's what you're gonna get when you with me. You're gonna get stuff you don't find nowhere else. So for those of you guys who don't know who I am, my name is Harriana Hook. You can just call me Harry, or you can just call me the captain. And I make content about nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues I find in those spaces. Now we have the first part right here. I am basically asking the audience like how old everyone was when they first started watching the show, because that is a very common thing when it comes to the Boondocks, is that a lot of us, like just basically black people and mixed black people, a lot of us watched this show under like the age of 13. We were not the targeted age demographic for the Boondocks, but the reason so many of us watched it is because it was like a black cartoon and we didn't really have that much to pick from. So yeah. And the Boondocks is a show that is very much nostalgic for me when it shouldn't be, because I want to ask you guys a general question by show of hands. If you were at least 16 years old when you seen this show, raise your hand.
No.
Okay, now lower your hand. Now if you were around like 13 years old when you first saw the show, raise your hand.
No. Y'all know y'all shouldn't have been watching that show. Where were your parents?
If you were under the age of 13 when you first saw the show, raise your hand. I'm telling you, this is the one show that so many people watch when they was not supposed to be watching it. And I think that just kind of contributes to why there's so many bad takes when it comes to it, because y'all saw this when you were so young and we're too young to process it. So let's go ahead and begin. We all know that the Boondocks started off as a comic strip created by Aaron Britter and was, I mispronounced that man's last name, but it was adapted into an Adult Swim television series called The Boondocks. Now, fun fact about me is that The Boondocks is my first adult animated series. So, yeah, when I tell people that, they're like, that one was your first? They're like, The Simpsons wasn't the first? And I was like, no, it was The Boondocks. I went straight in here. Went straight to TVMA. So how I started watching...
Because of Vegeta education.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna like tell like my story with the Boondocks and just kind of how I'm not the person, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it weren't for this series. And then we'll start like taking audience questions about like this show or whatever. So y'all go with that? Okay, so how I started watching the Boondocks, I don't even know really, because one day I was just bored and I was just looking at stuff on the computer you know how you are when you're like 11 years old and you're just looking at stuff or whatever. And I saw the Boondocks and I thought it had a really, really cool art style. And I think that's just kind of how I started liking it, because it looked like anime. And I had started watching anime, but it was like magical girl slice of life stuff. It wasn't nothing like this. So I was like, oh, this is such a cool art style, it's an anime. And they're like, no, it's American. But really what caught my eye about it is that they were black. And I was like, you don't see that over there, so that's interesting. And when I started watching the show, I didn't necessarily know what to think of it, because that is my first time ever watching anything that had heavy profanity, lots of blood, lots of fighting, anything like that. Mainly because I've never really seen like animation like that before, because my parents just like sheltered me from that. So you know what I did when I was in 6th grade? Almost every day when I'd come home, I would like sneak and watch the Boondocks on the computer. This was during the days. This was during the days where you can get away with uploading stuff on YouTube in 3 parts. That is how I watched. Yeah. But that is literally how I watched the show. I loved it, and it's like I feel like everyone can kind of have a character they identify with, which is kind of concerning when it comes to this series. But I was really drawn towards the character Jasmine because I was like her age. But also, you know how Tom and Sarah, I can't say Sarah by the way. Okay, I had to pause it right here to explain why I said that. The audience got why I said that because I'm pretty sure we all know the show like the back of our hands. But I personally don't like Sarah because I don't like white women like her in real life. I really think that she could do a lot better when it comes to her allyship. But also she has like a, oh gosh, she has a bad fetish when it comes to black men. And I can't stand them fetish people. I cannot do her. That's part of the reason why the relationship between her and Tom was terrible. And then also, I feel like she could have been a better mother to Jasmine. You literally have your biracial half-black daughter right here, and you don't do a good enough job with, like, you know, her hair especially. Because I remember in the comic strip, there was a little bit more details about Jasmine's struggles with her hair, and it like pissed me off because Sarah didn't even try to learn how to help her do it. Overall, Sarah, like I said, she's the kind of white women that I really don't like in real life. The ones that are like, oh, they love black men, this and that and the third, but then their allyship just kind of like stops there. Yeah. You know how they kind of like sheltered her away from like so much in the world? My parents were like that. So that's why I was like really kind of attached to her. But I mainly like watched all the stuff with her in it. And then I started watching all the other stuff. Then we came across Stink Meter, and that was I will say that around this time period, this is when I really started to get interested in studying more about like black history. Because even though I went to all black schools and whatever, hung around, I was really only around black kids growing up. We didn't necessarily really learn our history, and I was able to learn that more from the Boondocks. Because the only way I was really able to learn my history was from like that one Black History episode of That's So Raven. Them teaching us about Martin Luther King Jr. every year and showing us our friend Martin. Even though we were black, we didn't really necessarily... Yeah, even though we were black, we didn't necessarily really learn our history. So I was able to get that with the Boondocks. And I was just like, I want to learn more about just blackness in America and just the world. Because we all know that the Boondocks is basically like a social commentary on blackness in America. So that is what I like to do in my free time, like throughout my childhood. Just look up fun black history facts. I was following so many like pro-black accounts. Some were hotep and we don't do that. So yeah, but as time went on, I realized that I really am interested in learning about this stuff, and I want to do better and educate other people on that subject. So because of like the Boondocks really putting me on this, and I don't want to say SJW because I noticed that term has become a little bastardized. It really has like the show that like helped me become more like socially aware, but also wanting to get educated on more. Because like, yeah, don't stop at the Boondocks. You gotta go and do the other readings to just as well. So that resulted in me like minoring in African American studies at my college. I'm still there, unfortunately. But yeah, and it's like interesting because so much of the stuff I see in the Boondocks, it like overlaps with my studies and things that I write in my papers and whatnot. Like sometimes even my like professors would reference the show. That's how much of like a cultural impact that it has had. But overall, that is just kind of like my backstory with the series. And also, like I said, on my YouTube channel, I do talk a lot about like the subject of like race in animation. And that show is like a big contribution as to why I do that. So that is a bit of my backstory and my relationship with this series. But mind you, when I first watched the show, I was 11. Obsessed with it. Like I was like a hardcore stan. It's embarrassing. But I was like really obsessed with the show. And then I left it alone a little bit until when I was like 14 or 15 years old, where one day in my computer science class that we did no work in, my friend was like, hey, you want to watch the Boondocks with me? I was like, sure. And we just sat there and just watched it for like 2 weeks straight. And that just kind of like, I was like, oh, okay. I'm finally having like a better understanding of certain things within this series because I'm a little bit older. But mind you that I loved this show so much when I was 11. And then when I was 15, I was like, okay, I'm understanding it a lot more. But then when I gave it my rewatch when I was in my 20s, still am in my 20s, I realized that a lot of it aged well, and a lot of it did not. And that's okay. Like, it's not a perfect series. That's one thing I do want us to like talk about when it comes to the series. While it is very much, and I hate saying this word, influential to our culture, especially like blackness in America, it's also okay to acknowledge that it just didn't age well in certain aspects. So okay, so this was the first crowd question comment. This person basically talked about how, if you guys didn't know, the Boondocks was supposed to have like a reboot series, but it ended up getting canceled. And they were talking about they don't know if they wanted it to come back or not. And here I am just giving like my input on if I wanted the show to come back or not. Yeah, right here.
It was one of my gateway series for adult animation, you know, and much like Reboot. And also, for a while, I wanted it to come back, and then I wondered, would you be able to use that kind of humor in today's world? Probably not. Like you said, it didn't age well at all.
Honestly, okay.
Well, parts of it didn't age well.
Okay, when it comes to the Boondocks, okay, so y'all are aware that there was supposed to be a reboot, but it got canceled?
Yeah.
Honestly, when I found out there was gonna be a reboot, I wasn't even excited for that. I wasn't really. Okay, what you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say it's like if they started going less towards like the original series, what they started as, and started gearing more towards of what was going on as commentary on, like, say, the Booty Warrior and I mean, it's taking stuff that was online,
yeah,
and actually gearing it towards like more, this is in your face kind of thing, and we have to do better as a culture.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that would have worked out a lot more than just saying like, throwing the word nigger around like 30 times in every episode and thinking it's all right to say that towards everybody.
Yeah. Honestly, like, speaking, by show of hands, who actually liked season 4? Okay, I had to pause it and cut that right there because it just got too loud. Basically, I asked the audience who actually liked season 4, and nobody raised their hand. I don't even think like 1 or 2 people raised their hand, but basically overall the majority did not raise their hand. And you can hear them a little bit in the background, but Verity's Joe, who's my friend, we love them. They said that they like the way it looks. So if you hear like a person saying that, that's them right there. And then also I want to make a note of, we were not allowed to use profanity during this panel, even though it is a Boondock panel. But momocon just strictly had like a, hey, you can't use profanity for this panel because it's like during like the all ages hours of the convention. But it was just like the context of the way that person used like the word, the N-word. That's why I just kind of let it slide right then. But later on in this panel, you'll see like more people do try to use like profanity, and I kind of have to stop them because I have to abide by like, you know, the con's protocols.
It's like my favorite thing about it.
Okay, it looked amazing. No, season 4 just like, honestly, it's weird when it comes to season 4 because it's like season 3 came out like in 2010, correct?
Yeah.
And then it was like a 5 years.
3.
Was it 3?
Aaron was gone by then, so he wasn't even on the show. I mean, he wasn't writing anything.
Okay, because it didn't even feel like the same series.
Yeah.
No,
It wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah, Bruder had black.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Wait, lower your voice so we can hear you, please.
yeah, I was gonna say, I definitely think that it's important that we also recognize and acknowledge that shows can only go on for so long until they're not getting more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's okay for them to stop, especially when you have something that's, you know, like you mentioned before, been such a big impact on culture as a whole.
Yeah.
If you keep going, then, you know, you're risking making it worse and worse and worse, and then making it something that, you know, at the end of the day just becomes a bad taste in people's mouth. So it might be okay for us to end here, stop here, and appreciate what we learned from it when we had it, as opposed to ruining it.
Yeah, for the most. Oh, yeah, back here.
I also wanted to say, I feel like there's also the issue of, I feel like the boondocks shouldn't have to be this spectacle. It shouldn't have to be the only one of its kind.
I agree. I most definitely agree.
You see other shows like, you know, that are considered other raunchy shows, but that are more white-centered, and you have so many.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily spectacles.
Yeah.
You'll have the OGs, but with the boondocks, there really was maybe only the boondocks. Yes, there were some other ones that tried to come out, or even other.
Like Black Dynamite. Like Black Dynamite.
But still, boondocks itself, is you don't see any others at that level. You could definitely tell with censorship, and then even, I feel like they often want to put black shows and black characters into a box of what they're like, well, we'll let you meet this, but we're not going to let.
Okay, so this lovely person right here basically was talking about, they said there's like this spectacle when it comes to like the boondocks, because it's kind of like the only one of its kind, but we have so many of like these other white people animated sitcoms like, you know, Simpsons and Family Guy and Bob's Burgers. They have so many different shows to pick from, but the Boondocks is kind of like the only animated black show of its kind. Like, we have like similar other things, but like there's nothing that's really too similar to the Boondocks, to be exact. And then I come in and give like my input on what they said, but they made a really good point about just like blackness in animation. I most definitely agree with you, because we're going to talk about that, because that's the main reason why I watched the show in the first place, because I done seen the Proud Family 50-11 times. Yeah. All the other black cartoons, I've seen them so many times. I've seen That's So Raven so many times. I needed something new and black to watch. And I was happy when I found the Boondocks, because I was like, yes, we have like a new black animated series. That means we're going to see more later on, like adult animated series, because we do have more black animated shows like Moon Girl, amazing show, go watch it. But that is like for the, like an audience of like preteens. The Boondocks is a black adult animated show for black people, made by black people. And we do have Black Dynamite, but honestly, Black Dynamite I gotta be in the mood for it. It's just like something I can't throw on like the Boondocks, because sometimes the humor is just too annoying for me. But like I like Black Dynamite. It looks beautiful, beautifully animated. You can see there was hard work put into it. But I just kind of hate the fact that the Boondocks is like one of its kind. Yes.
Okay, you watch Boondocks. What is your favorite episode?
My favorite episode. Okay. I think it's weird, because I think me and my sister, because I watch this with her all the time, we have like the same favorite episodes. Okay, I'd say, I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I can say one of my favorite moments from the show was like the Story Against Delicious Part 2. To be the way that episode ended, because it really touched heavy on the subject of how homophobia in the black community is, and it was so sad. And that song they had played in the background was this. So that has to be like one of my favorite moments. I really love the movie theater episode, mainly because Jasmine was in that one so much. That poor child. But I have to say, I'm mad. You may know, because you got on me about one time. It's Tom, Sarah, and Usher. Okay, going in a little bit more detail about that, because I pointed to somebody in the audience. The person I pointed to, that was my friend Kiwi. He runs the YouTube channel King Wingley, and he knows that I love Usher. I love him. I talk about him all the time. I listen to his music all the time. So it's just like when I looked at him, I was like, you know what I'm about to say because you got on me about it before. But he's my friend, and I was joking around with him right there. But that is like one of my happier favorite episodes of this series because sometimes the show can get dark. I've always been like a really, really big fan of Usher. Like, I'm in love with him. Not lying, but like, I love him. I listen to him all the time. I'm a big fan of him. I took my dad's 8071 album, I think that was called, and I told him it's mine now. That's my favorite simply because I just have a glass of Usher. So, yes, right here. Yes, Kat.
So I have two things I want to ask, and I want to circle back on the Gangstalicious thing.
Yeah.
The first thing is like we do need to talk about my friend Martin because like I remember a specific part in it where they came back to the future when everything was like,
Messed up?
Yeah, and they had the little Spanish girl on the floor talking about no
She speak English?
cleaning the floor, and I thought that was weird.
That was wild.
Like I get what they were trying to say, but what an interesting way to put it.
It's funny because that moment in my friend Martin is something I expect to see in the Boondocks. So I'm not even joking.
But I also wanted to talk about like, what is your interpretation on how they portrayed, because homophobia is a really big problem in the Black community,
Yeah.
especially for men. Like for example, in the Gangstalicious saga, when they came out with his fashion brand, and Miley was talking about, no, this is the new Gangstalicious skirt, and it was like a skirt instead of crop top. As soon as they said like, no, it's okay because Gangstalicious wears it, like suddenly it was a masculine thing to do, and it wasn't feminine when it was literally a skirt and a crop top.
Yeah. That, honestly, like, I say that Jesus, no, that reminded me, because I was about to say I wish the show did touch on homophobia a little bit more, but they did in season 4, and it was cheeks, so.
So there are 2 episodes that make fun of BET. Yes. And its effects on the Black community, and those episodes didn't get aired on Adult Swim until HBO Max first came out.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, or do you think that the interpretations of like Deborah Lee and BET were accurate, or do you think there was a good reason why they got banned?
Okay, it's funny because there's a really good video on YouTube by the creator of named Black Femininity TV, where she basically made a video talking about why Black people just can't stand BET no more. And you know how Boondocks is just very much over the top, and how they portrayed everything like BET and like Tyler Perry even being like a cult or whatever. It's just like they don't listen to the people and they just put out what they think they want to see. Honestly, that episode just kind of reminds me of a lot of y'all. Because you know when it comes to television, and just the Boondocks in general, the Boondocks has been in hot water a lot for like going too far. But now that I think about it, it's because I'm like, no, that's like a lot of y'all on social media. Y'all just saying whatever you want, but you don't really have that filter there, or no one telling you to stop. And because like, okay, we give you this show, it's gonna be on Adult Swim. Barely anybody's probably gonna see it unless like a diehard fan is. But then like the show has been in hot water so many times. Like even the comic before the series came, people used to be angry with it. Like I actually have a book of the comics too, and like a lot of people are like, no, we need to stop Aaron McGruder from what he's doing. It's just like he was like, hey, I can't stand BET, let's portray it this way. And I feel like they was able to get it past the censors because them white people at Warner Brothers probably didn't understand it. So yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's bringing up a point of double standard when it comes to Black people. Because
Yeah.
guess what? South Park does it all the time.
Yeah.
Family Guy does it all the time.
Yeah.
But guess what? When Black people want to do it, it's like, oh, this is too out there. And I want to circle back to the thing of, it's like, of Black people being bombasted and they're portrayed on television. It's
Yeah.
like we can only be one of two things. We can either be like almost super negative like they are in some of the extremes in the Boondocks,
Yeah.
or we have to be like ultra positive to where it doesn't even relate to us anymore in like Cosby Show or something like that.
Yeah.
Our family doesn't live like that.
I get that, and it's just sometimes I hate when I think like this, but I'm like, I'm so scared that we may never see another cartoon like the Boondocks, like reach that kind of level of success with it being like created by Black people, and it's about Black people and its culture, and they are able to tell the story how they want, going to those extremes. Because the American film industry, just the film industry worldwide, it's really just ran by white people, and you have to do what you can to not make them upset. And if you do make them upset, they get on you. And that's just another reason why I low-key feel like why the Boondocks doesn't really have that much episodes as I thought it did. Because they're like, okay, you can do this, but you only get like 13 episodes to do it. So, yeah. Yes?
Yes, so just over the course of like the last month, me and my friend watched the entirety of the Boondocks.
Okay.
Yeah. And there were a few episodes that really stuck out to me.
Wait, what made y'all want to watch it? Oh. No, I'm just genuinely curious. Like, okay, some context right here. Those two people that were talking right then, they were not Black. That's why everybody was just like. And mind you, like most of the people in this room were Black people, but I did learn that I did catch on because they were talking about they found the show like through memes and stuff like that. A lot of people did not watch the Boondocks that mean like non-Black people. A lot of them didn't watch it until like clips of it started going viral on like TikTok. So that's just kind of like an interesting thing because the Boondocks has always been this show that everybody in the Black community knows about, but a lot of like non-Black people didn't necessarily watch it until like in the last few years because of TikTok.
You've known about it for years.
Okay.
And I just know it through memes, so it's like I gotta know where the memes come from.
Yeah.
Okay.
The episodes that really struck with us were about Thugnificent.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your opinion on how he is a good commentary on just rappers from the 2000s and that kind of.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yes, because like I feel like if the Boondocks was made today and they would make another character that's a commentary on like modern day rappers, it would be a completely different character, you know?
Okay, you actually made a good point, and also like the Boondocks sounds go viral on TikTok all the time, so I can see how you. Because I was like, okay, but the funny thing when it comes to Thugnificent is like I can't say it because we can't use profanity in here, but that's actually really interesting because that's actually very accurate because a lot of rappers are poor when it comes to their finances. Like they not poor when it comes to their finances. They do a poor job of managing their finances. It's like as soon as they get all this money and they find all the success and they just go and spend it and flaunt it and they just want to show everybody the lifestyle of the rich and the famous. And I think that episode is actually still very accurate because we still see that now with rich rapper celebrities on the internet always flaunting how rich they are and this and that and the third. Where the music at though? So yes.
Yeah, actually, you kind of go off what you said about Thugnificent and in the commentary about 2000s. I think it's a good kind of add-on or accolade to the show that what they do actually kind of does the same thing in South Park where it projects way into the future.
Yeah.
Because every time I think of Thugnificent, weird enough, I think of Young Thug. Like, he came out way before, but like he was like such a great representation because literally the thing with the dress was literally what Young Thug did. He literally did that exact thing.
I remember a lot of people were making like, okay, I think you're thinking of Gangstalicious in the dress. Yeah. Yeah. Because I remember a lot of people were making that comparison to Gangstalicious and Young Thug at that time period. And then I remember when Lil Nas X came around, people started comparing him to Gangstalicious. Yes, in the back. Okay, this person right here asked me what was like my opinions and like feelings on the Japanese dub. And for those of you guys who do not know, the Boondocks was dubbed in Japanese, and those people said the N-word. Mind you, I'm not a fan of it. It honestly made me uncomfortable when I saw the clips. Okay. Okay, quiet down. I got you next after I talk for a minute. But I only saw one clip of the Japanese dub, and it was the exorcism scene. Let's just say there's a lot of directing choices in that dub I don't agree with. So, yes, back here. Yes.
I think the early 2000s were very
pro-black, talking to my friends about hip-hop, just that time period has been erased from history. Looking at Lil Jon, Me Twins. I'm from Atlanta, so Pet Shop Boys, Soulja Boy has taken a turn, but even just wearing oversized t-shirts, big jerseys, that shit's not a real anymore.
We can't cuss here, remember?
Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the Boondocks covered that, and do you think the Boondocks can cover the 2020s, 2010s the same way they covered the early 2000s?
I feel like they can because history does repeat itself. And that's why I get so angry when I think about the fourth season. Because it would have worked, it just didn't.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
The early 2000s were so black, like, black people, I mean, we say we push the culture. You know what I'm saying? But our culture was accepted then. It's not now. Does that
Okay, I wanted to stand up and talk because I feel like it would have been easier for me to see everybody in the audience, and I ended up messing up the mic. Yeah, you'll see the malfunction right here, but I got up because I was like, you know what? I need to stand up talking about Sam Levinson. Let me tell you now, we're gonna bring up Sam Levinson. I don't like Okay, can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay, so y'all, do you know, by show of hands, do you know who Sam Levinson is?
Unfortunately.
Okay, do you know who what Euphoria is?
Yes.
Okay, that man is my enemy. So basically, one thing I have learned when it comes to, hey! Okay, context of what's going on here. I saw FD Signifier in the audience. I'm not even joking. That really was him. And it was a pleasant surprise because I didn't know he was coming. But one thing I've learned when it comes to our culture is that y'all like blackness when y'all can remove black people from it. Because that's literally what Euphoria is. It's so much black-inspired fashion. It's so much black music. And then it's barely any black bodies on the screen unless they're like shoved in the background. And then like the one brown-skinned character that was a main character got kicked off. The main, like, the only black is, like, a biracial girl, and then her little sister, the actress is actually black, she's just light-skinned, she plays biracial, too. Euphoria is weird, and then you have this show that wants to write about blackness, but then there's only one person in the writer's room, and that man is white and straight, and that is where all the show's issues are. So that's just something that I keep seeing, because it's not just Sam Levinson. There's a whole bunch of creators in Hollywood, the professional film industry, they do that just as well. That's why I say I'm scared we're never gonna see another Boondocks. Okay, this person asked me who was my favorite guest star on the Boondocks.
You got a favorite person who guest starred on the Boondocks?
Tashina Arnold. Yeah, she was Attack of the Killer Kung Fu Whoopie. I don't like that episode, but I really like her performance in it. She was hilarious. I wish she could do more voice acting. She's great. Okay, who do I think is this right here? Yes, with the glasses.
What do you think it'll take for there to be another animated show like that?
Make it indie. Yeah. Support indie animation. That's the only way where I think it's going to be as authentic as they want it to be. Okay, right here and then right there. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think of the prediction technically Boondocks made of Popeyes?
The fried chicken food, that's just funny to me. Like, that was just like a coincidence because I remember like when everybody was going crazy over that Popeyes chicken sandwich, they was over here fighting people for it. The line was like going into the street for it. And the next thing you know, people started getting sick from it. I was just like, this is scary. Okay. I just thought it was funny. Okay, right here and then right here. And then I got you right up there next. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I had a question before I'd like to quickly bounce off of that. For me, the fried chicken food episode was strangely fresh when it came to COVID, people scrambling for toilet paper and food and whatnot.
Honestly, it's funny because that episode can mean so many things, but okay. What's next? Right here? Yeah. Wait, you had something else to say?
I just wanted to react to that, but my main question was, but for a while I thought that, you know, the spectacle and how extreme Boondocks could be was arguably just to get attention, but then I realized it's strangely accurate sometimes because, for example, have you seen the hidden episode, The Story of Jimmy Rebel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that Uncle Ruckus episode was the documentary where he's in the house. The
I don't like that episode.
Yeah.
I found it hard to believe that someone like that was not only real but famous.
Oh, yeah.
It turns out he's based off of real.
Oh, people like Ruckus exist. Okay,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was made that episode with the black lady who fell in love with Ruckus, and he just couldn't believe she's black.
Oh, the love for Anthony Brown.
Yeah, but with the kung fu, it's the kung fu influence on the show.
Yeah.
It would have been really kind of nice to bring Black Dynamite in there, you know, as it like the old uncle or friend of grandpa.
Yeah,
You know.
that would have been like a nice little crossover, but like, I feel like the tone of Black Dynamite is just too different from the Boondocks. Okay, it was someone over here that had their hand right here.
Question, you know who Donald Glover is?
No, yeah, Childish Gambino.
How do you feel about him, if he, speaks Boondocks?
It's funny because a lot of people like to say, because I even made this comparison too when Atlanta first came out. I was like, it's kind of like the Boondocks a little bit. Donald Glover is not a show. He's a person. Honestly, he does so many things, but you can tell because there's like strengths and weaknesses everywhere. I was not feeling the last 2 seasons of Atlanta, I'm gonna be honest.
The last one.
Yeah, I feel like it would work, but also at the same time, it's Donald Glover, so it's very like hit or miss. All right, Donald Glover, basically Childish Gambino. I have a lot of like opinions on just his work overall, because I remember I even wrote about the way he like treats black women in his works when I used to have my little internship at Vox ATL. But here I was just talking about how Atlanta did remind me a lot of the Boondocks, like if the Boondocks were live action. But also, the last 2 seasons of Atlanta, I wasn't feeling them. It wasn't like as strong as the second season of the show, especially. And I was just a tad bit disappointed because I was a big fan of Atlanta, and I hated the last 2 seasons. I couldn't do it. Okay, and we're here. And then
I had a discussion with a couple of friends a couple of years ago. I wanted to ask you the same thing. Huey Freeman, do you find him more profound or pretentious?
Okay, I used to be a lot like that. The thing with Huey, because there was a character in the comic named Michael Caesar that I really think they should have put in the show. Because Michael, he challenged Huey on his views. And Huey, in my opinion, he often felt like that kind of like, there's nothing wrong with like, being pro-black. And he was like, okay, you're getting to the point where you don't want to listen to people and listen to other people's views and whatever. Because one thing that always kind of got on my nerves about Huey is how he like really kind of like disliked rap music. And he'd be like talking about other stuff that he listened to. And I'm just like, okay, you're getting to the point where you are just kind of like deflecting your own culture. Because there was something he said that actually made me mad personally. Because he was like tough. Right? Yeah. He said something talking about, it was like a joke where it was like this lady like died after like watching a marathon of the Parkers, and I was like, you're not gonna get on my show now, bye. But I really wish Michael was in the show because he often challenged Huey on his views. But also, I feel like Huey could be really negative at times. Yeah. Because I remember it was one episode where him and Jasmine were like sitting at the table, and he said something, and she just looked at him like, are you serious? Like, okay, they do right here, yeah.
Like, I have this whole thing where I think that, like dark humor and, like, that kind of stuff is kind of like a double-edged sword, where it's like, you have, like, an in-group laughing, like, obviously, black folks will look at it and laugh, but then you'll have, like, people who take it too far, and, like people who aren't joking, if that makes sense? Like,
yeah.
It's like a double-edged sword with dark humor. Sometimes we're joking, sometimes there are people in that group that are not joking. How would you say the Boondocks like affected how like people saw because obviously you had black individuals looking at it being like, haha, that's so funny, but at the end of the day, like that's some serious stuff we need to like come to terms with, or that's some stuff to address, or then you have people going, haha, black people are so stupid.
Okay, so you brought up a good point because one of my friends actually brought this up to me, and we were like, yeah, let's be honest, this show has an issue with misogynoir, or do you guys know what that means, first of all? Yeah. Okay, and also homophobia. And it's just like, this is just something that I've just noticed throughout the entirety of the Boondocks, and it's something that has started to bother me since I've been in college and been doing more about these studies. It's kind of like Aaron McGregor has like this grudge against like sex workers or whatnot, and it's very unsettling and it feels really uncomfortable. But it's just one of my friends, the Mighty Z on Instagram, she's great, you guys should follow her. But she was talking about if the Boondocks wanted to tell stories like this, they should have asked these people to work on that, because that's not really your story to tell. Because let's just go ahead and face it, the Boondocks is mainly like a series about black men and everything that goes on with them. And I was like, that's the reason why, I don't even want to mention that clip about why they don't have black women in the show. But I was like, I felt like you could have had black women within the show if they worked on it. So, yeah. Hi, I wanted to go in a little bit more details here. As I mentioned, that the Boondocks does have an issue with homophobia. And as I said, this show, while it is a show that is about black people, it's kind of a show made for like the black male gaze, in my opinion, because women, there aren't really any black women who are main characters or like recurring supporting characters. The closest thing that we get to that is Jasmine, and she's literally a half black girl. Like, that's kind of like the closest thing we get to that here. Mostly all the women that we see in here are just regular women that come in and out, like black women of color specifically. But oftentimes they're just like made fun of and are kind of like the butt of the joke. They don't really have much substance to them. And I think it's just because this show just needed help in that department if they wanted to have like a main character that was a black woman. But that also just contributes to the fact that there were no black women really in that writer's room, and it needed to be there because there are certain aspects of this show that age horribly because of that. And I also said something about how Aaron McGregor has like a big issue when it comes to homophobia. There's just certain aspects when it comes to sex work that I really think this show handled badly. That episode, guest host coming to dinner, I understand the nuances of it, and there is a video that I am making specifically about that episode, but a lot of it fell flat.
To sort of continue that, whenever you're doing comedy that is also meant to critique a topic, you always run a risk of accidentally moving too far into the parody and the satire. A good comparison is the way a lot of people look at Mel Brooks's work when it comes to how he looks at Nazis and how he looks at Hitler. You have to be, there's a very fine thread you have to like walk along whenever you're doing comedy that also works as criticism, which is why there are elements of the Boondocks that can and do still hold up today, like especially when you look at the criticism of people like R. Kelly, like issues of—
Oh, that episode aged well.
It's like there are elements of the show that do work today, and they work really well. Like, I watched the show as an adult, and I saw comparisons. I saw things in that show that I was like, this works really well now, but this was made like a decade ago?
Yeah.
More?
Yeah.
But then there are elements that they haven't aged as well. There's elements that you look at that and it's like, ooh, that was not a very good take.
Yeah.
Even then.
Yeah, that's a lot of like when I can come to terms with this series. It ain't all that well. Yes.
Hi. First off, love your videos, by the way. I'm like such a huge fan.
Thank you.
Secondly, I want to ask you two questions.
Yeah.
One, how do you feel about the Stink Meter saga minus the last episode because it stank like and out of like all the episodes of season 4, even though it stinks like hot food, what would you consider like your favorite episode of that season?
Okay, my answer may be really mean. So, okay. I've never really been a fan of Stink Meter's entire thing. I understand his purpose in the first episode because, like, yeah, y'all be acting like that and y'all need to get it together. I get that. I can't say what it is because we can't cuss in here. But Stink Meter, in the beginning, he was fine. That exorcism episode, I was just like, what's the point of this? Like, it just felt pointless. The third one, when they brought the whole crew in with them, I was like, just get rid of it. I didn't even watch the last Stink Meter episode after that because I was just like, I don't want to see him again. Now, my favorite episode of season 4 because it's so mean, but it's that Kardashian episode because I can't stand that family. I can't stand that family. I am not a fan of those people. And even though they handled it poorly, it was nice to see, okay, it could have worked. It just didn't. It really could have worked much better, but they didn't have to go that, oh, she's a Kardashian, but they don't know if she's really related to them or not. I was like, you didn't have to go that route. You didn't have to do that. You could have handled this family in another way. Hi, I do want to give a little explanation about like why I think that Kardashian episode could have worked better. Basically, the episode, as we know, the Kardashians are a family that have a fetish for black men and are like have an obsession with black culture but don't respect black women. They could have focused on that with the family, but so much of the episode was focused on that lady fake ass. Like you guys get the problem? Like so much of the episode was just focused on that lady having a BBL and her being like, oh, I'm related to this rich white family. And I was like, there's other things that y'all could have done there because they did touch on that with her like dating granddad. But also I was just like, why did it stop there? It could have been much better.
Yeah, just two things. One, from the anime series, Riley's teacher is a victim. I feel bad for her.
You talking about the S word episode?
Listen, that man's a victim. I feel bad, but it's genuinely hilarious and plays my head rent free. The second thing is kind of an observation between the show and the comics.
Yeah.
And this is just me, but I feel like it has to do with like the removal of Caesar from the anime series. Because with the anime series, the characters seem to lean more into the extremes. Like, we already knew, like, if you read the comics, Huey already had, like, a rather pessimistic, negative point of view.
Yeah.
He was challenged by Caesar and sometimes Jasmine when he was too pessimistic.
Yeah.
But in the series, Granddad, he's not as upright and righteous. Well, maybe, like, the first season, but later on, he becomes more selfish and just more self-centered. Riley, he's... Riley.
The fundraiser. He started calling himself that. I was like, okay.
That was pretty good. And like, he's a lot more of a public menace than he is in the comics, even though he did get Cindy arrested.
I hate Cindy.
But it just seems like in the anime series, everyone moves more into the extreme compared to the comics. And I feel like Caesar kind of helps to balance everyone out.
He did.
He is the most balanced out of everybody.
He is. It's funny that you mentioned Cindy. Because I don't know why this person thought it was okay to say this to me, but they were like, Cindy should have been black. And I was like, that literally takes away the point of her character. She's that white girl obsessed with black culture. Like, how did you miss that?
Totally from power.
Okay, I wanted to give a little bit of an explanation for this section right here. Like, I had gotten a comment from somebody that said Cindy should have been black. And first of all, Cindy was always white in the comic. But Cindy being black would literally defeat the purpose of her character, because if Cindy were black, she would just be like any regular little black girl. But her being white, she's basically like that hot Cheeto girl y'all be talking about all the time. The Kardashians are hot Cheeto girls, but that's another topic for another discussion. But Cindy's character is that is someone that is obsessed with like blackness and its culture, but doesn't necessarily care about like black people as a whole, and puts on a black scent and act like they from the hood when they really from the suburbs. That's who she is. She's just an annoying ass culture vulture white girl. That's her purpose.
Yes.
I know it's crazy, but my two favorite characters are also like the two characters I hate the most. Charlie Murphy and Samuel Jackson's character.
Oh my god.
Double standard, like it's okay for them, like these white people in this show, to say the N-word and partake in all these black spaces. But then you get in real life, and if a white person came up to me and said some of the stuff they say, I would lose it.
It's funny because like Woodcrest is kind of like mostly white. That's why Ed and Remy are able to get away with that. One key thing I like though, I like that they actually had them voiced by black men. Yeah. So they can get away with doing that. Ed and Remy, that's another case. Questions over here on this side? I don't feel like doing it. I want to give a little more context about who Ed and Rummy are, mainly because I know a lot of people who don't watch the Boondocks or haven't seen it are watching this video. Ed and Rummy are these two white men that are literally like menaces. They're both annoying as hell, but also they're two white men that say like the N-word and the way they speak and they talk. Ed and Rummy's characters are part of the reason why I don't think the Boondocks would ever work live action, because the only way that this show was able to get away with so much of what Ed and Rummy said was because Ed and Rummy were voiced by two black men. One was Charlie Murphy, and I'm pretty sure the other one was Samuel L. Jackson, like the person said. But that's how it was able to work because of who voiced them.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
One of the things I like about the show is that the more like ridiculous characters like the Booty Warrior, like at the time, like I thought it was just a character, and then like I see the actual clip was the actual people, I'm like, oh, this is like real. If boondocks existed in modern day, what real life like person do you think they could parody perfectly in the show?
They could have done it with Chris Brown, but they didn't do it well. They could have done it really well with him. I'm trying to think, what is like another like, because they really like to pick on musicians, I like to think.
It's Kanye. It's got to be Kanye.
Okay, they over here saying Jack Harlow. Who said Kanye? Because I agree.
He's a great artist that just went completely off the deep end, but he's so parodyable right now.
Yeah. I honestly would like to see if they would do like a Raven Simone type, like a Black Child star. That would be like, that would be interesting. Okay, who is next?
So the Boondocks were inspired by anime culture.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples on how Black culture has inspired anime?
I mean, look at this room. Like, we literally at a nerd convention right now. Honestly, I think that's another reason why I'm thankful for this show, because it's like, okay, we like this stuff, but sometimes it's like, is it for us? Because none of the people in it look like us, and we look like the people in the Boondocks. And it's so interesting because like anime is like cool now. I noticed that, but so much of that has to do with Black creators online. Like, what is his RT? Yeah, his videos out there going viral. White people loving those, and that inspired more Black creators to make and whatnot. So, yeah, anime honestly, it has its positives when it comes to the Black community, especially like since the pandemic, because there are so many like nerdy Black creators that I see now. So, yeah. Context on who RDC World is. RDC World is this group of Black people. I remember because I remember their videos used to go viral all the time when I was in high school. But so many of their videos revolve around like nerdy things such as like anime and gaming. And now you go online and you can find so many nerdy people, Black people specifically. But now it's like back in the day, they were kind of like the only one of its kind. Like we had RDC World and then we had like Berleezy, but that was it. And then Andre, a Black Nerd Comedy. But I'm not even, like I said, their work wasn't for me, but I'm not going to sit here and act as if their work didn't have like a positive impact on the community.
I guess I just wanted to go a little bit more into the misogynoir that you mentioned, and like kind of the colors in general. I feel like I see in the Boondocks. I feel like whenever they're judging a character, they tend to, in a negative light, they're usually going to be darker skinned. Like even you could say Uncle Ruckus to an extent is, you know, he is kind of the butt of the joke and is the extreme.
Is the darkest one.
Is the darkest one.
Yeah, it's
colorless.
colorless.
Like that is part of the, you know, with the coon behavior kind of thing. Is he, you know, he's saying like, oh, I got opposite of. But I feel like every time is usually going to, it is usually going to be darker skin. Even how I used to say like most of the characters are light skin still, like.
Christelle,
yeah. Even though she was, you know, as you were saying, they still depict sex workers and women in general.
Yeah.
They could have done a lot better. And I think how you mentioned the person that voice. I feel like if they have people like they just have Black women in the room, like
hire us.
Black women in the room.
Like please hire us, please. We want to work.
Like y'all are out, like we're out, like y'all are out there.
That's I hate to mention homegirl, but like there's Black women in that writer's room. That's why this show is so good. Like, yes.
I was saying in the comics, it seems like you were talking about like there's not a lot of turnaround for Huey, but it's like he's the person that also is speaking from having book knowledge but not actual experience.
Yeah.
So when he speaks and he has that person that's coming like back at him in the comic book, he ends up making, I guess, embarrassing himself in almost a way because he can't even hold up to the standard of which he wishes everyone else would live up to.
It's interesting when it comes to Huey because you know how you have somebody read the text and they're like, okay, he memorized it, but does he understand it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when he be saying stuff, I just be like, shut up, like. Oh, okay. Yes.
I kind of want to piggyback off of that. I feel like because of how he is, we keep forgetting that they're 10 and 8.
Yeah, they're
Like Huey with his skills, he's like 10 years old. He's saying all these profound things. He has all these skills. In the show, the guy made homemade tear gas, and Riley is a certified public menace that is trying to use guns.
That's kind of why I wish Michael was there. Because, like, yeah, we understand that these are kids. Of course, they're not all that bright. Of course, they're going to do stupid things. But Michael, the one that was just kind of, like, kept the balance there, it would have worked. I really don't like how they put Michael in it. Like, that was so sweet. But, you? Oh, I thought you got one, yeah. Y'all can see.
So, I'm gonna be honest. Uncle Ruckus, terrible person, but I always thought of him as the one that called out the BS.
Yeah.
Like, you know that silent conversation that black people have when they look at each other and they see like some BS and it's like.
Yeah, I did that a few times this weekend. So.
So that's how I always thought of him. And then a question, what's your favorite quote? So like,
Dang, I can't say it. It's that Martin Luther King episode. It was on Martin Luther King Maybe because I just think it's funny, but like, even though, let me tell you, the thing about Ruckus is like, while he does make points talking about like, the black community does this, the black community does that, the reason he does make points, but I don't take him seriously because he don't like black people. He don't like himself. So it's like, that's why we have like a person like Huey, where he's like very much pro-black, but we need him to be like more calling out the BS and not be extremely against everything, so. Okay, so you guys know the saying, a broken clock is right twice a day. That applies to Uncle Ruckus's character in this series, mainly because Ruckus is a self-hating black man and he like worships white people, even though white people treat him like ass. Ruckus, he does make some valid points when it comes to the black community. That's why I say a broken clock is right twice a day. But I don't really care to listen to what he has to say, like people like him and what they have to say, because overall they're very much a self-hating black person, so much internalized anti-blackness, and that's not the person that I would want to get like my insight from. I'd rather get this kind of, you know, the things that they do say that are right. I'd rather get that from somebody that actually cares about the black community and just doesn't dislike them.
So it's not more so about boondocks, but what do you think the problem is with Adult Swim not really having anything else to watch? Because after Boondocks and Black Dynamite went off, I don't really.
You mean like black stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's like it's a whole lot of, you know, other stuff like that. I love looking more at it. Yeah, it's like I don't know what else is there not.
Okay, this person basically brought up how Adult Swim is very white and how there's just not that many like black cartoons on like that network. Like all the white stuff outweighs the black stuff. That's what this person was saying. It's just something that I've noticed when it comes to just blackness in film is that we'll get a black show and then we won't get another one for a while. Because I remember when That's So Raven like went off the air, we didn't get like another show like that on Disney Channel until like years later. The Proud Family came out in like the early 2000s. I don't think we got like a black cartoon like that again until this year with Moon Girl. That's a good show. That's amazing. But like you can't stream it. You can't watch it nowhere. I had to go watch it on bootleg when I did that countdown. When I did the countdown of like the top 10, not the top, but I did like a ranking of like the black Disney Channel films. And that one was number one. I'm sorry, it was a great movie. It was, okay, yeah.
I feel like it's not a question of we don't have a lot of black content, like adult content. I feel like we just don't have a lot of good black
content. Honestly, I say this all the time, but I was like, so many of the issues we have with like the professional film and animation industry could be solved if we did better about supporting indie productions, but also being able to find these productions because they're not that easy to find. Okay, yeah. No, you go.
No, I was about to say like this is kind of why I love the Boondocks so much because it just gives like such good critiques about black culture. You know, you, like as a kid, you fucking grow up watching.
Watch your mouth.
You like
Okay, this person that I was talking to, this is my friend Lonnie. He runs the YouTube channel Think Peace Tribe. That is why I said that to him. Like, you can, I talk to my friends kind of like that. We like kind of playful with each other. But that's why I said that to him. And also, he made an amazing video. I do mention it here called like, it was about like black conservatives, and there's an entire section of the video where he like acts out Uncle Ruckus scenes, and it's a great video, and I highly do recommend you guys to give it a watch.
You like grow up watching Tyler Perry movies, and you know all the substance, you know all the references and everything.
Yeah.
And then you watch the Tyler Perry episode of the Boondocks. Where
it was off the chain.
Yeah, where like they talk about how the black woman is always this dark skinned aggressive black woman, and the love interest is always this light skinned stereotype.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like stuff like that. That's why like, I love it. That's why I wish like we got more black works like that. You know?
Honestly, okay, I'm gonna play him on the spot. This is Think Peace Tribe from YouTube. He made a video talking about black conservatism, and he had a whole skit where he like acted like Uncle Ruckus, and it was great. It was great. But like, I was just like, y'all, that right there, where I was like, yeah, we need to support more indie black creators when it comes to content like this. Okay.
What do you think of the footage that we got from the Boondock pilot?
Wait, what pilot?
The Boondock pilot that was released online like almost a decade ago.
Oh, on air
Yeah, it's on your pilot. It's only a brief scene, but it's basically from what it looks like Huey got detention because he defended Jasmine or whatever, got in a fight, and Jasmine came at the window and gave him the sandwich.
What did they do that? That's cute. No, because when okay. In middle, like, I'm telling you, there was a whole bunch of little middle school girls watching that show just like me, because there was like a whole little fandom for it in like 2011, and we all shipped Huey and Jasmine together. So like, where did they keep that? I want to like that.
It's over YouTube. You can find it easy.
Okay.
Going back to a child star that we portrayed good.
Yeah.
If they did one. Since we mentioned That's So Raven, I remembered Orlando Brown.
He gonna come for that. He gonna come for that crew. He gonna come for that crew.
True, but they would still do it though.
Yeah. That's why I was like, Raven is a little bit more tame though. And I was like, I feel like they can get rid of that. Because you know how they was with that Tyler Perry episode and they never aired. They aired it now because I saw it on Adult Swim not too long ago. That's how Perry episode chef is. Cause okay.
So I would like to say, like Boondocks also probably inspired you, like we were like to artists or like animation, because it did for me, and because that's how I started back in middle school. At first I started with me, but later I watched it again. It's like, oh, I draw like that.
Oh, sorry, you can go.
And the second part I wanted to ask was, what you think of a huge Christmas?
Do I look like Charlie Brown? I thought that was funny. Honestly, the Christmas episode is one I don't really watch that much because it's like Christmas. It's like whatever. It's just a basic episode to me. It's just okay. But like the Boondocks were saying, like, it's interesting because I have like a story, and one of my friends, and I asked her, what does my story remind you of? And she said the Boondocks, and I was like, how? And she was like, I can't describe it, but it just does. And I was like, okay. So that's interesting to know that that has influence over my writing. But it really just kind of like inspired me with what I want to do with my life as a career. And like that has to do with like educating people on like black issues and stuff like that. So, okay, we're gonna have to go a little fast now. So,
Okay, I do want to give a little more context to what this person was saying. This person was saying that the Boondocks had like inspired them to create, and also it inspired me to create just as well. And I said something about how one of my friends, she told me that my comic reminds her of the Boondocks, and I found that funny because I was like, how does it remind you of the Boondocks? And she was like, it just does. And then I had to remember that I've been with this show since I was 11 years old. Of course, and it's like a show I've seen so many times, so it makes sense why it has that influence over the things I make. Because I even noticed it when it comes to my 2 books that I have published already on my website. Not like a little shameless plug, but I noticed the way I like speak in it, and I was like, this is how the Boondocks talk when they would like educate people. They would be cussing and all that stuff. It's just something to think about.
Okay. What episode really stuck in your brain? I think for me it was the lemonade stand episode.
Lemonade is $1. I can't even vote for all these episodes y'all are saying. Okay, the Usher episode, I'm gonna be honest, that was just kind of like a fun episode to me. One that's a little bit more like serious, I'd say, that really like stuck with me. It's just one moment in it with that Dr. King episode, because I can't think of a particular episode, but I can think of many moments, where they were talking about every street named after that man is a mess. And that reminded me, because there was a high school in my decade named Martin Luther King Jr. High School. That was like the worst school in the county. Like, worst behavior, low graduation rate. So like, I just like kind of laughed at that, but I was like, that's sad, because all this stuff named after that man. And it's a mess. Oh, who was next? Right here.
Oh, so what do you think about Black Jesus? I mean, that's the last black property we kind of sort of had on Adult Swim.
I didn't like it. I saw like 1 or 2 episodes, and I was just like...
You gotta make sure the other, the other one to kind of sort of see.
Yeah, it went for me.
Yeah.
Okay, who else was there here?
How come we never got an episode that is based off like the movie Friday for Boondocks?
They may not have had the time to. Because usually when it comes to like production for shows, they put out all these ideas and then not all of them make the cut. So that would have been great, though, I ain't gonna lie.
Person basically had said, why did the Boondocks not really like parody like Friday or like make an episode about the movie Friday? Because as you guys know, John Witherspoon, who voices Granddad in the series, he was in Friday, and I said that they most likely just didn't have the time to, because when it comes to production, they put out all of these ideas, and the ones that we see are the ones that made the cut. There's so many things that we just don't see in production. There's so many things that don't make it into the final product. Like even when episodes are being written, as things are like moving and going along, there's certain things within the script that end up getting cut out, and then sometimes there's just episodes that get cut entirely.
I'm not able to another panel. I didn't catch your social media name.
Oh, Harriana, HARRIYANNA. So yeah, I got a table in like the exhibit hall, so I'm just over there. You want to see? I'm next to like the BlurCon table, so yeah. Okay, we gotta do lightning round now. We one more time. Yes, boom, boom, boom. Okay.
So I know it's not exactly black adult animation, but does anybody like Robbie create from the Creek?
I appreciate the show. It's just like it wasn't. So it's weird because I like the show when it wasn't at the Creek. I really liked it when it was like with the family.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite aspect of it. But Private Creek is great. It's cute. Yes.
How would you have been?
How would I what?
How would you have been?
I don't even really know. Like, how would you end a show like this? Because it's not really a series, I say, that have like an ongoing storyline. Because they just continue stuff that happened in there. I don't really know. How would you end it now?
It's kind of like South Park, where it's just each episode's like their own little, like,
Yeah.
story, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Who is next? Right here and then right there. And then I'll probably say one more and then we're gonna end. Yeah.
Yeah, some of my favorite episodes were the Red Ball and Showing Down. You know,
No.
Projects I know, but on that note, I was wondering, how do you think Boondocks deals with bigotry towards other races in America, namely Asians and Eastern?
Okay, let's be honest. This is something that I've noticed when it comes to my channel. Black woman. So it makes sense for me to mainly talk more about like my community because I don't want to feel like I'm over speaking when it comes to those communities. But one thing I've noticed when it comes to black people is that there's a lot more of us online particularly, but like out talking more about like our issues within our communities and whatnot. And then I've noticed that I often get other races asking me to talk about their issues, and I'm like, yes, I understand it's important, it's a problem, but also it's just kind of like, I don't want to feel like I overstep my boundaries. So that was something that I did like about the series, but I can kind of understand why they did that, because it's like, nobody was really talking about this in animation. And this show right here is kind of like the only show that really talks about race. So it makes sense for them to bring that up when it comes to people that are non-black people of color. No, but the red ball, there's like one moment there that I really like where they was like talking mess and they thought he ain't understand them and he did. That is such a flex. Like, yes.
Okay, a little bit more into detail about what I was talking about here, because mind you, this was like towards the end of the panel, so I had to like start hurrying up because I still wanted to get around to everybody. But this person was basically talking about how the Boondocks handles race, like when it comes to other like people of color, not just black people. And I had said something about how oftentimes black people are like kind of expected to like speak up for like other races and just minority groups in general. And it makes sense why the Boondocks did that, because this was really the only series on Adult Swim that was talking about race. And I mentioned how I feel like this happens with me because when it comes to the cartoon community and the animation appreciation circle, I was like, I'm not saying I'm the only one that does this, but I'm one of the more prominent faces in this community that does this. And I realized because I talk so much about Black issues, other races and minority groups would come in and ask me, can you make a video about this? Can you make a video about that? I feel like those people should speak up, but then also it's kind of, I feel like it's wrong of me on my part to just ignore it as a whole because I have this big platform that is known for like, you know, talking about like social issues and things like that, because that's really kind of like the introduction to my channel where I talk about like nostalgia and family, children's entertainment, all the issues I find with those faces. It's literally in my introduction. So that's why from time to time I would make content about like things for other people of color and just other minority groups too, mainly because it is important to talk about these things and be a good ally and speak up and do your part. But also I don't want to feel like I'm being the face for another community. That's why I am very like much encourage people to make their own channels, because I noticed this happen a lot when it comes to like South Asian representation within the media. And I remember a lot of people like, you need to make a video about this, you need to make a video about that. And I understand that, I get that, but also at the end of the day, I'm not South Asian. I am a Black woman. I can speak up and talk about these factors, but this is why I'm like, I feel like I wish the community was a little bit more diverse, where these other people would come in and talk about these factors that are affecting their communities. Because there's only so much that I can do as a Black woman, and there's only so much that I can say until it gets to the point where I'm just like, yeah, don't talk too much about that. Save that for someone else. But then also it's like nobody else is really talking about this, because I noticed in particular when it came to Robbie from Jesse, I had yet to see anybody talk about the issues that went on with his character there. And then I remember that nobody made a video about the Disney film Spin either. It's just something that I've learned. And then just also realizing how a lot of Asian characters are represented in certain media that I enjoy too. It's like I said, I do think it's important to speak about these things because no one's talking about them. But also at the same time, it's kind of like a line, I'd say, that I don't want to cross, because I don't want to act as if I'm talking too much about this factor. That's why like a majority of my content is usually has to deal with Blackness.
What do you think a pimp makes the a pimp Honestly, what's my Cat Williams? Yeah. Because I just always call him Cat Williams. It's just...
That's the character's Cat Williams.
He's terrible. He's a mess. Yeah. But that's why we love him. Sometimes we just want to see a bad character be bad. Okay, he's hilarious. We like to laugh at him, but I don't really take him too seriously. Okay, we got time for one more. Yes, Ryan.
Okay, going back to talk about Black media, I had this thought. Do you think it's like a marketing issue when it comes like big studios and like Black shows? Because I can say like Black people will go like hard for a Black show, but when it comes to like the studio, supposed to be run by the whole like industry, it's gonna be put to the limelight. So I'm thinking, would it be a marketing issue?
Let me tell you this. I remember what you brought up reminded me of the situation with a show called Dance Moms and a show called Bring It.
Yes.
Black people showed up for Bring It, but those are like mainly the only people who watched that show. Everybody of every race watched Dance Moms. That's the thing right there. It's like, okay, we know the black community is gonna watch it, but are other people gonna watch it too? Because we know this issue with Moon Girl, where everybody on cartoon Twitter is still screaming about stuff that ended a year ago, but they won't give Moon Girl a chance.
Real.
Yeah, so it's just like, we know black people are gonna show up for this, but will other people show up for that just as well? That's the thing. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So we've been trying to get non-black people to watch Moon Girl for so long, and I'm just like, watch it, please, please. We need another season, please. But yeah, that is the conclusion to this. This was a great conversation.
And that brings us to the end of the panel of revisiting the Boondocks. The room was full, like it was so full. There was people in there just standing up in the back. I wish momocon gave me a bigger room, because when I looked on how many people had signed up for the panel, it was like over like 300, 400, almost 500 people. But it went really well, and I am satisfied with the outcome. It was really nice to have a big discussion with the audience on what was going on, and those are my favorite kind of panels that I like to host. And yeah, I'm very thankful that I was able to do this. And I don't know, sometimes you just never really think about the influence you have on people, because that person's just like, hey, love your videos, while they were talking, and that did make me smile a bit. You saw I did like a little dance. And for those of you guys who want to know what costume I was wearing, I was dressed up as wordgirl. But yeah, that's it. This is just basically me giving the outro. I wanted to just go ahead and just upload it, but I realized I wanted to make this viewing experience a little bit better for the people at home, not the ones that were in there, so I could give a little bit more context on what I was saying and elaborate on some things, because I only had an hour for this panel. So you guys sat with the whole hour, but when I paused here and there, it's like, hey, I want to talk a little bit more about why I said that thing right there. But yeah, you guys want to follow me on everything is just Harryana, HARRIYNNA. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day, night, or whatever time of day you are watching this.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Professor Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye and do it all before bedtime. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.